Today we have the wise men journeying with the star, and I posted on Facebook, did we see the Star of Bethlehem? The other night, and the answer to that question is likely not. The Star of Bethlehem was a supernatural appearance, and St. John Chrysostom says that in fact it was the angel Gabriel. So the very one who announced to the Virgin Christ's conception, the Archangel Gabriel was the same one to bear the wise men to the place of Christ's birth. And, we have all these shows trying to explain supernatural phenomena naturally. And the point is God stepped in, right? The star went before them. Then they got to Jerusalem and it disappeared. And then it reappeared when they, out of faith, just started traveling. Again, and God's like, no, you're going the wrong way. So Archangel Gabriel, this is the right way. Down to Bethlehem and turn south. And all got you. So that is what happened. That is the star. That is the star of Bethlehem. And so we remember the supernatural acts of God, and I'll talk about this more on Sunday, but I have to tell you personally, when people talk about God as if he's sort of like this idea, for me, that's bizarre because I've experienced God my whole life. And again, I'll get into that a little more. It's interesting. I had two different bishops, and one said, don't tell people about your miracles, and the other said, tell people about your miracles. Fortunately, a lot of my miracles got witnessed by people in this parish. We together experienced these miracles. So, this is when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And so why is that? Well, it's because they thought God had abandoned them, right? God brought them all this way, and they show up in Jerusalem, and they're like, God has abandoned us, probably. I mean, that was probably their thought. We came all this way, we get to Herod. Herod's like, oh, by the way, give me a tip-off, because I really want to come worship this kid myself, right? And, which obviously was, he didn't want to worship him. And, but we too, in our lives, we run into King Herods all the time, who are telling us, who are trying to trick us in a way to give up our Savior, right? And in that case, it was the wise men, oh, just tell me about it. Tell me where he is. Once you find him. But we also sometimes feel abandoned by God. We get to Jerusalem, and we're like, that's it, God's abandoned us. But guess what they did? They didn't give up. They're like, no, he hasn't. Let's start traveling again. God will show us the way. And they stepped out in faith from Jerusalem, and they saw the star once again. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with great joy, because they knew God had not abandoned them. And the star went, and it came and stood over the place where the young child was. And the same thing with us. Brothers and sisters, God gives us stars all the time to lead us always back to God. And sometimes, unfortunately, we ignore them. We ignore them. But let's not ignore them anymore. When we see the star, let's rejoice with great joy that God has not indeed abandoned us, but shows us the way, and always the way comes and stands over the place where Jesus is. God bless you and keep you this Merry Christmas. Christ is born. Christ is